Kaboom?
Yes, Rico. Kaboom.
In preparation for the newest Descendants movie, I recently rewatched the fourth movie, Rise of Red. I don't think it's any secret that many Descendants fans didn't like this movie, and I was no exception. But I was hoping that rewatching it, or watching it in tandem with the sequel, might make me appreciate it more. Instead, I found myself thinking the same things I thought when I first watched the movie, which was that this movie felt weirdly unfinished. I'm a writer and an avid reader, and oftentimes when I watch something, I find myself applying writing conventions to the early part of the story to try to figure out what the rest of the story might look like. Things like foreshadowing and the hero's journey and save the cat. I've had multiple people be shocked that I was able to guess an ending, but at this point, this approach is just second nature to me. So, naturally, when I first watched Rise of Red, I started to form an idea of what the ending might look like, anticipating threads and plot lines to reach a climax before wrapping up. But instead, the story just ended. I've seen other people comment on this as well, saying that it feels like the movie should have been 15 or 20 minutes longer. And this makes sense. Rise of Red is the shortest of the Descendants movies. The first one is 112 minutes. The second one is 111 minutes. And the third is 106 minutes. That's an average of 109 minutes. By contrast, Rise of Red is only 94 minutes. That's approximately 15 minutes shorter than the average Descendants movie. But it's more than just runtime. After all, Wicked Wonderland clocks in at only 95 minutes, but doesn't seem to be facing the same criticism as the fourth movie. Rise of Red is also missing structure. Let's do a quick breakdown of the plot to show you what I mean. The movie opens with Uma, who has been made the new principal of Oradon Prep, after Mal, Ben, Evie, and Jay left to, quote, form alliances with distant lands. This scene is mostly just exposition, providing an explanation for fans of the original Descendant movies for why their favorite characters are not there, and helping to bridge the gap between the two trilogies. Uma declares she will open Oradon to students from Wonderland, and we cut to Red. Her opening song is establishing Wonderland as a tyrannical state, and also introduces the audience to her character, making it clear from the beginning that she's no fan of her mother and has a rebellious streak, but that rebellion is also done behind a mask. After her song, Red is rescued from capture by Maddox Hatter. His scene introduces our first major plot device, the time-traveling pocket watch, which Red promptly steals. Next, we're introduced to Chloe, our other main character. Her scene establishes her as a straight-A student, goody-two-shoes type, but also as a fighter. More of a knight archetype than a princess. We also see how much she admires her mother. After this, we cut back to Wonderland. The Queen of Hearts has discovered the vandalism and attempts to push Red towards villainy. This is going to be Red's main emotional arc, that she longs to be different from her mom, but lacks the courage to defy her to her face. When everyone arrives at Oradon Prep, the Queen of Hearts uses these magical playing cards to summon her soldiers and stage a coup. This is obviously our main conflict, but there are also a few threads being laid down during this portion of the movie. The first is the fact that the Queen of Hearts and Cinderella used to be friends. We also learn that the Queen of Hearts, aka Bridget, changed for the worse after a cruel school prank that ruined her first ball. And the audience is introduced to the Looking Glass, a magical artifact that shows the future. We are also reminded of Red's emotional arc here, when she is given the opportunity to defy her mother again, but succumbs to her cowardice instead. Red uses the pocket watch and accidentally takes Chloe along for the ride. Their song together is laying down the foundation for their relationship. Initially antagonistic, before they agree to work together. They find themselves in Merlin Academy, the predecessor to Oradon Prep, and pose as students, where they're introduced to the young versions of their moms, Bridget and Ella. Bridget's song helps familiarize the audience to the new setting, Merlin Academy, and is also when we're introduced to our main antagonist, Uliana, Ursula's little sister. When Uliana eats all of Bridget's magical flamingo feathers, She's briefly turned into this bird-faced nightmare fuel, falls into a fountain, and is humiliated. Bridget, despite her efforts to try to warn Uliana, is blamed for this, and Uliana vows revenge. This is our secondary conflict. And all of this is also playing on Red's and Chloe's emotional arcs. Red is shocked at how drastic of a change Bridget underwent, and Chloe is taken aback by how cynical her mother is. The girls realize Uliana's revenge is probably the prank that turned Bridget evil, so they visit Ella to learn where Uliana might be. Chloe gets a chance to see how difficult her mother's upbringing actually was when she breaks a vase, giving her some insight into why Ella might be so cynical. The girls learn that Uliana hangs out at a place called the Black Lagoon, and when they go there, they overhear Uliana's plan, including the fact that she needs something called the Sorcerer's Cookbook. Since it's a cookbook and young Bridget likes to bake, the girls visit her to ask about it. While there, they use Bridget's looking glass to check on how things are going in the future, and learn that Cinderella has been beheaded. Bridget tells them that the Sorcerer's Cookbook is a restricted book. It's kept locked up in Merlin's library and is enchanted to prevent troublemakers from using it. After learning this, Red wants to steal the book, but Goody Two-Shoes Chloe thinks stealing is wrong and initially refuses to help. But after she has a conversation with Ella, who tells her that sometimes you gotta get your hands dirty, she changes her mind and goes to help Red. They face off against Merlin's security system and eventually get their hands on the book. It's briefly stolen by Uliana and gang, but when they open it, the enchantment that's supposed to keep it out of the hands of troublemakers causes them to freeze. Chloe encourages Red to open it though because she doesn't believe that Red is like her mother, and when Red opens it, she's predictably fine. Merlin finds Uliana and gang frozen in his office and gives them detention. Convinced that this is enough of a deterrent, the girls return to the present, where they learn they were successful in keeping Bridget from becoming evil. The end. The reason this ending feels unfinished is because the showdown in the library is an unsatisfying finale. It lacks the scale we're accustomed to for a finale in these movies, like fighting a dragon or fighting as a dragon. There's no rise and fall in the conflict. We would expect the scene in the library to be a false victory, the point in the story where it looks like things will work out, only for things to come crashing down and then rise back up again for the true finale. The equivalent of this moment would be when Mal and her friends are able to successfully rescue Ben from Uma's clutches in the second movie. This is a false victory, but we intuitively know that it's not the end of the story because the emotional beats haven't been closed out yet. And when Uma returns and seems to have stolen Ben away, we reach a new low in the story before climbing up even higher for the climax and finale. The library scene in Rise of Red should have been like that, with an additional 15 to 20 minutes after that point for the true climax to be a much bigger deal, a fight to keep Uliana from trying her revenge again. Additionally, there are several threads still left dangling in the final version of Rise of Red. Castle coming is mentioned in the first 10 minutes of the movie and brought up constantly after that, but we, the audience, never see it. We would expect Castle coming to play a part in the finale, in the same way Ben's coronation and Mal's cotillion do in the first and second movies respectively. Additionally, the beginning of the movie sets up Red as being too scared of her mother to defy her on 2 separate occasions, which means that we would expect her to finish out the movie being brave enough to stand up for what's right, even at personal cost. To me, the beginning of the movie also seems to be hinting at Cinderella potentially playing a more antagonistic role in the prank against Bridget. The Queen of Hearts appears to be angry at Cinderella in particular at the beginning of the movie, and Chloe's arc of discovering that her mother isn't as perfect as she thought is exactly what I would expect, to serve as preparation for the reveal that Ella is at least partially to blame for the prank against Bridget. And I think that last point might actually be the reason why Disney changed things up. This is all speculation, but what I think happened is that the original cut of Rise of Red was very different until Disney execs stepped in and forced the creators to rewrite. In fact, when the movie first came out, I was so convinced of this that I kept expecting to see some sort of article or interview about the original version of Rise of Red and how it was changed drastically. I never did see anything like that, so you can take what I'm saying here with a grain of salt. But if Rise of Red was massively rewritten, there's really only one reason I can think of for why they would feel the need to do that, and that's if the original cut painted Ella in a slightly negative light, as the early movie seemed to be hinting at. And Disney wouldn't have been able to stand for one of their beloved princesses to be anything less than perfect, so they demanded the storyline be cut. So, with all of that in mind, I've outlined what I think this theoretical first version of Rise of Red would have looked like. It's largely speculative, but it's also grounded in those actual story threads I already went over. It also assumes that a few key scenes are reshoots, and I'm making that assumption based on the inconsistencies in Chloe's hair. So, without further ado, here's what I imagine the story might have looked like. The beginning of the story would largely stay the same, with a few notable changes. When the Queen of Hearts first shows Red the looking glass, she actually gives it to her, so she'll have access to it for the remainder of the story. I'm not sure why they would have cut this, but I feel pretty certain it was utilized more in the original cut. I'm also pretty sure Chloe and Red's song is a reshoot. I'm guessing this was added in to make them appear more antagonistic at first, to try to justify Chloe's arc being more about learning to trust Red. But in the original cut, they would have worked together more quickly, and Chloe's arc is about her mother. I also think this scene with Bridget in her room is a reshoot. I'm guessing in the original cut, the girls went to someone else to ask about the book, like the fairy godmother. And in the rewrite, it was changed to have them go to Bridget instead, to give an excuse for Chloe and Red to use her looking glass, and to find a small way to include the Shovel of Love song in the final version. But in the original cut, Red would have used her own version of the looking glass, and maybe when she first looked in it, she saw the same evil mother-daughter that her mother showed her, and she got spooked, so she gives the looking glass to Chloe for safekeeping. After the events in the library, they return to their dormitory, and this time, Chloe looks in the looking glass to confirm that they were successful, but she sees her father being captured and her mother killed. They realize that they haven't changed the future, and they will need to attend Castle Coming to stop Uliana. Only, they don't have dresses. Thankfully, Chloe knows someone who can help. They sneak to Ella's house and get to witness the fairy godmother finally mastering her magic and helping Ella get to the ball. After Ella leaves, they convince the fairy godmother to magic them some dresses too. They arrive at Castle Coming and split up. Chloe finds her parents and gets to witness them falling in love. Meanwhile, Red finds Bridget and discovers that Bridget is upset because she was supposed to go to Castle Coming with Ella, but Ella abandoned her for Prince Charming. Red catches sight of Uliana outside and rushes over to her with Chloe. There's a big finale fight. I assume Uliana would have turned into a giant octopus like Uma and Ursula, and Chloe would turn her into calamari with her sword. Once Uliana is defeated, Merlin appears, reminds her that she has detention, and takes her away. Right then, they hear the clock strike midnight. They rush back inside just in time to see Ella running away from Prince Charming. Bridget tries to stop her, still upset about being abandoned, but in her haste, Ella shoves Bridget away, right into the path of the rest of Uliana's gang, who drop blood red punch on her. Ella runs away. Chloe pursues her. She chastises her mother and convinces her to go back in and make amends with Bridget, even if it means facing Prince Charming as just plain old Ella. Meanwhile, the whole school is laughing at Bridget, and Red stands up for her, defying everyone. Ella returns and apologizes. Her and Bridget make up. Chloe looks into the looking glass to see her parents happily together, and we end with a big group number version of Shovel of Love. I do think that this final scene is indeed another reshoot, so I'll leave it up to you to decide what Red will find when they return to the present. Either they will have been successful, but it's more of a hard-earned success than we saw in the final version, or they will be unsuccessful, and even their best attempts weren't enough to stop Bridget from becoming the evil Queen of Hearts that she was always destined to become. Either way, that's it. That's the ending. That's how I imagine Rise of Red might have originally gone if it was indeed reshot and rewritten. I think this version of the story feels a lot more satisfying to me. More of a fully fleshed out story, rather than the version that we got, which feels unfinished. I would love to hear what you think of this revised plot. Do you agree that this feels like a natural conclusion for what was set up in the beginning of the movie? Which of the two endings would you prefer for the final scene? I think personally I do prefer the happy ending, but let me know what you think. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.
Whoa, hey now!